The antiseptic smell of the hospital had become as familiar to Chen as the scent of her own apartment, though she would never admit that she preferred it here. She pushed open the heavy door to the volunteer coordinator's office, her canvas tote bag stuffed with worn paperbacks, and a thermos of honey lemon tea that soothed her throat after hours of reading aloud. "Maya, you are a godsend," Linda, the coordinator, said without looking up from her computer screen. "We have a new patient in the private wing, room 407. He specifically requested our reading program." Maya adjusted the strap of her bag. "What is he like? Mystery? Romance? I brought a mix today." Linda's fingers paused over the keyboard. "He didn't specify, just said he wanted someone to read to him. He's been here 3 weeks recovering from a car accident, multiple surgeries." She glanced up, her expression softening. "He's been refusing most visitors. Maybe your voice will help." The private wing was quieter than the regular floors, with cream-colored walls instead of institutional white and artwork that looked like it belonged in a gallery rather than a hospital. Maya's sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as she made her way to room 407. She knocked gently before entering. The man in the bed was younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair that looked like it had been hastily combed and a strong jaw shadowed with stubble. His left leg was elevated in a complex brace, and his right arm was in a cast. But what struck her most were his eyes, a deep gray that tracked her movement with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Hi, I'm Maya. I'm with the volunteer reading program." She kept her voice gentle, the same tone she used with all the patients. "Linda sent me up. Is this a good time?" He studied her for a moment, and she wondered if he would send her away like he had apparently done with others. Then he nodded just once. "Yes, please." His voice was rough, like he had not used it much lately. Maya pulled a chair closer to the bed, not too close to invade his space, but near enough that he could hear her comfortably. She set her bag on her lap and began pulling out books. "I brought a few options. There's a thriller by Michael Connelly, a historical fiction about World War II, some short stories by Alice Munro, or if you want something lighter, I have a comedy memoir. You choose." He shifted slightly, wincing with the movement. "I trust your judgment." Something about the way he said it made Maya feel seen in a way she was not used to. She selected the short stories, thinking they would be easier to pause if he got tired or needed a break for medical care. Opening to the first story, she cleared her throat and began to read. Her voice filled the quiet room, rising and falling with the rhythm of the prose. She had always loved reading aloud, even as a child. Her younger brothers used to beg her for bedtime stories, and she would create elaborate voices for each character until they fell asleep. Now, at 28, working as a freelance copy editor during the day and volunteering at the hospital 3 evenings a week, she found this was still what brought her the most joy. She glanced up after finishing the first story and found him watching her, his expression unreadable. "Should I continue, please?" That rough voice again, but softer now. "What's your name again, Maya?" "Maya Chen." "I'm Ethan." He paused. "Thank you for being here." Over the next 2 weeks, Maya came to room 407 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening. Ethan was always awake when she arrived, always seemed to be waiting. They progressed through the short story collection and moved on to the historical fiction novel. Sometimes he would fall asleep during her reading, and she would continue anyway, her voice lowered to barely above a whisper. Other times he would ask her to stop, so he could discuss a particular passage or character motivation. "You have opinions about everything," Maya teased one evening after a lengthy debate about whether the protagonist's actions were justified. "I have a lot of time to think in here." Ethan's physical therapist had been by earlier, and the session had clearly exhausted him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but he had insisted Maya stay for their usual reading time. "Your voice is the best part of my day." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "That's sweet of you to say." "I'm not being sweet, I'm being honest." He held her gaze. "You could read a phone book and I would listen," she laughed, tucking a strand of black hair behind her ear. "I don't think phone books exist anymore." "You know what I mean," she did, and that was becoming the problem. Maya had read to hundreds of patients over the past 3 years of volunteering. She had held hands with elderly women as they cried over lost loves, had made children giggle with silly voices, had provided comfort to people in their darkest hours. But she had never felt this pull, this magnetic draw to someone's presence. When she was not at the hospital, she found herself thinking about Ethan, wondering how his physical therapy had gone, whether he was in pain, if he was lonely. "Tell me about yourself," Ethan said suddenly. "I feel like I know the characters in these books better than I know you." Maya set the book down in her lap. "There's not much to tell. I'm a copy editor. I live alone with a very judgmental cat named Hemingway. I volunteer here because my grandmother spent her last months in this hospital, and the volunteers made such a difference for our family." "I'm sorry about your grandmother." "Thank you. She was amazing. She's actually the one who taught me to love reading." Maya smiled at the memory. "She would take me to the library every Saturday when I was little. She said books were portals to infinite lives." She was right. Ethan's expression softened. "What else? Siblings?" "2 younger brothers. Tommy is 25, working in construction. Jamie is 23, still figuring things out." She did not mention that she helped them both financially when they struggled, or that she had put her own dreams of graduate school on hold to help pay for Tommy's trade certification. "What about you? Do you have family?" Something shuddered in Ethan's face. "A mother who calls every day from France where she's supposedly finding herself. A father who has not spoken to me in 5 years. No siblings. I'm sorry, that must be lonely. It was easier before the accident." He looked away toward the window where the evening sky was darkening to purple. "I could work 80 hours a week and not think about it." "What do you do for work?" Maya had been curious but had not wanted to pry. "I run a company. Manufacturing." He said it dismissively, like it was not important. "Boring corporate stuff. Nothing as interesting as what you do. Copy editing is hardly thrilling. But you make words perfect. You probably make other people's writing sing." He turned back to her. "And then you come here and share stories with strangers. That's not nothing, Maya." The way he said her name made her stomach flip. She stood abruptly, gathering her things. "I should go, you need rest. Will you come back Friday, of course?" She could feel his eyes on her as she left the room. In the elevator, she pressed her palm to her chest, feeling her heart race. This was dangerous. Patients often formed attachments to their caregivers, even volunteers. It was a known phenomenon, born of vulnerability and gratitude. Whatever Ethan felt, it was probably not real, and whatever she felt needed to be contained. But Friday came, and she was back in his room with a new book and fresh honey lemon tea. Ethan looked better, the gray cast to his skin replaced with something healthier. He had shaved and his hair was neatly styled. "You look good," Maya said before she could stop herself. "I'm getting there. They say I can move to outpatient physical therapy next week." He gestured to the chair. "1 more week of having you to myself." The comment should have felt possessive, but instead it sent a thrill through her. "What will you do when you leave? Go back to work, I suppose. My assistant has been managing things, but there are decisions only I can make." He frowned. "Though the doctors want me to take it slow. Apparently almost dying means I should reevaluate my priorities. Maybe they have a point. Maybe." He watched as she settled into her usual chair. Maya, when I leave here, can I see you again? Outside the hospital, her hand froze on the book cover. Ethan, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because you're a patient. Because you might be confusing gratitude with something else. Because this, she gestured between them, exists in a bubble. Real life is different. I know the difference between gratitude and interest. His voice was firm despite the roughness. I've thought about nothing but you for weeks, not just when you're raiding, constantly. I want to know everything about you. What you eat for breakfast, what movies make you cry, whether you sing in the shower. Ethan. Her voice came out as barely a whisper. If you don't feel the same way, tell me. I'll drop it. But if there's even a chance you might want to get coffee with me once I'm out of here, I need to know. Maya closed her eyes, fighting with herself. The professional thing to do was to say no, to maintain boundaries. But the truth was, she had been lying to herself. She thought about him constantly, too. She dressed more carefully on the days she came to raid to him. She had started bringing him tea from her own thermos, making sure it was the right temperature. She lingered after reading, hoping he would want to talk. One coffee, she finally said. Once you're discharged and settled, we'll see how it goes. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. One coffee, I'll take it. That night, Maya lay awake in her small apartment, Hemingway purring on her chest, and wondered what she had gotten herself into. She knew nothing about Ethan really, except that he was kind, thoughtful, and listened to her with an attention that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. She did not know his last name, where he lived, what kind of manufacturing company he ran. She had never Googled him, had never asked the nurses about him beyond basic questions about whether he was up for visitors. Maybe that was better. Maybe they could build something real from this foundation of stories and conversation, without the weight of external details. Ethan was discharged on a Thursday. Maya came by that afternoon, not as a volunteer but as a visitor, bringing a card signed by the reading program volunteers and a new book she thought he would enjoy. You came, he said, and she could hear the relief in his voice. Of course I came. I wanted to make sure you were all set. She looked around the room, now stripped of the personal items that had accumulated over his month-long stay. A nurse had brought a wheelchair, and Ethan was dressed in real clothes for the first time since she had met him, dark jeans and a gray Henley that matched his eyes. My assistant is picking me up. Should be here any minute. He reached for her hand, his fingers warm and slightly rough against hers. Thank you, Maya, for everything. You're welcome. She squeezed his hand gently. Remember to take it easy with the physical therapy. Don't push too hard too fast. Yes, ma'am. He was smiling, but there was something in his expression that looked almost nervous. About that coffee. I remember. Tomorrow, there's a place called Rosie's near the waterfront. Do you know it? Maya nodded. It was a cozy cafe she had passed hundreds of times but never entered, always too busy or too broke to justify the expense. 2 in the afternoon. I would say earlier, but I have a physical therapy appointment in the morning. 2 works perfectly. She released his hand reluctantly. I should let you go. Don't want to keep your assistant waiting. She left before she could see who picked him up, before she could learn any details that might shatter the protective bubble she had built around whatever was developing between them. Tomorrow would be soon enough for reality. Rosie's was exactly the kind of place Maya would have chosen herself, with mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, and the rich smell of coffee beans and fresh pastries. She arrived 5 minutes early, wearing her favorite sundress, a blue cotton thing with tiny white flowers that her best friend Sophie had insisted made her eyes sparkle. Ethan was already there, seated at a corner table, using a cane but moving without the wheelchair. His face lit up when he saw her, and Maya felt her anxiety dissolve. "You made it," he said, standing with obvious effort to pull out her chair. "Did you think I would not show? I was about 60% sure." He settled back into his own seat with a grimace. The physical therapy session this morning was brutal. My therapist is a sadist disguised as a helpful healthcare professional. Maya laughed. That means they are doing their job right. They ordered coffee, and then, because Ethan insisted the pastries looked too good to resist, they shared a chocolate croissant and a lemon scone. Conversation flowed easily, just as it had in the hospital, but different somehow, lighter. Maya learned that Ethan had grown up in Boston, that he hated mushrooms but loved sushi, that he had traveled to 23 countries before the age of 30. "What about you?" he asked. "Where have you traveled?" Maya felt her cheeks warm. "Nowhere, really. I went to Washington, D.C. on a school trip when I was 14. That's about it." "Why not?" She shrugged, uncomfortable. "Money mostly, time, family obligations, the usual reasons." Ethan frowned like he wanted to say more but seemed to think better of it. Instead, he asked about her editing work, and she found herself telling him about her current project, a memoir by a woman who had hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail alone. "It's beautiful writing, but she uses about 17 commas per sentence. I spend half my time deleting punctuation." "Do you ever want to write something yourself?" The question caught her off guard. "I used to. I thought I would be a novelist when I was younger. I even started a few manuscripts." "What stopped you?" "Life, I guess. After college, I needed to work. My dad died when I was 21, and suddenly I was helping my mom with my brothers, trying to keep everyone afloat. Copy editing paid the bills. Writing novels felt like a luxury I could not afford." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "Maybe it's not too late. Maybe." She did not want to talk about her deferred dreams, not when the afternoon sun was streaming through the window and his thumb was tracing circles on her palm. "Tell me about your company. What do you manufacture?" His expression shifted, becoming guarded. "Kitchen appliances. High-end stuff mostly." "It's not that interesting. But you care about it. You said you worked 80-hour weeks." I do." He sighed. "My father started the company. When he and I had our falling out, I took it over completely. I've spent the last 5 years proving I could make it successful without him." "Maybe too much time proving that." "What did you fight about?" "Everything. Nothing. He wanted me to be someone I'm not. I wanted him to respect the choices I made." Ethan's jaw tightened. "He said I would run his legacy into the ground. So far, I have done the opposite, not that he would acknowledge it." Maya heard the pain beneath the anger and squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry. That sounds really hard." They talked until the cafe started filling with the dinner crowd and the owner began giving them pointed looks. Ethan insisted on paying, and then they walked slowly along the waterfront, his cane tapping against the wooden boardwalk. "This is the longest I have walked since the accident," Ethan admitted. "But I don't want this to end. We can sit." Maya pointed to a bench overlooking the water where sailboats bobbed in the harbor. They sat close enough that their shoulders touched. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Can I see you again?" Ethan asked. "And again after that?" "I want this to be the start of something, Maya, not just a thank you coffee." Maya turned to look at him, at this man who had somehow slipped past all her defenses. "I want that too." He kissed her then, gentle and careful, his hand cupping her cheek. It was the kind of first kiss that felt like a promise, and Maya found herself leaning into it, into him, into the terrifying possibility of letting herself want something just for her. Over the next few weeks, Maya and Ethan fell into a pattern. They met 3 or 4 times a week, working around his physical therapy appointments and her editing deadlines. He took her to restaurants she could never have afforded on her own, but he also seemed just as happy getting takeout Chinese food and eating it in the park. They went to movies and art galleries, and once, memorably, to a cooking class where Ethan's limited mobility meant Maya did most of the actual cooking while he directed from a stool. "You are a terrible sous chef," she teased as she chopped vegetables. "I'm an excellent supervisor." "You are bossy." "I prefer the term decisive." He was grinning, looking more relaxed than she had ever seen him. It was after that cooking class, walking back to where he had parked his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Maya made in a year, when she finally asked the question that had been nagging at her. "Ethan, what's your last name? I just realized I don't actually know it." He stopped walking and she saw that guardedness return to his face. "Does it matter?" "No, but it's weird, right? We have been seeing each other for a month and I don't know your full name. It's Carter. Ethan Carter." The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Maya could not place why. "Nice to officially meet you, Ethan Carter." He did not smile. "Are you going to Google me now, should I?" "Probably not. At least not if you want to keep seeing me as just Ethan." That gave her pause. What does that mean? He unlocked the car and opened the passenger door for her, waiting until they were both inside before answering. "My company is Carter Home Industries. We did about $3 billion in revenue last year. I'm not just a manager, Maya. I'm the CEO and majority owner. I'm worth, on paper anyway, close to $200 million. The number was so large it almost did not compute. Maya stared at this man who had been eating $5 noodles with her in the park and worrying about physical therapy capes, or so she had thought. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because everyone treats me differently when they know. Suddenly I'm not just Ethan. I'm Ethan Carter, the millionaire CEO. Women see dollar signs. Men want connections. Everyone wants something." His hands gripped the steering wheel even though the car was not running. "But you just saw me. You read to me because you wanted to bring me comfort. You talked to me like I was a regular person. I needed that, Maya. I still need that." She processed this information, trying to reconcile it with everything she knew about him. The private hospital room made more sense now. The expensive restaurants. The car. But none of that changed how he had listened to her ramble about comma usage, or how he had remembered that she hated cilantro. "I don't care about your money," she said finally. "I mean, it's a lot to take in, but it doesn't change how I feel about you." "You're sure?" "Ethan, I have been broke my entire adult life. If I was going to chase money, I would have done it a long time ago." She reached over and took his hand. "I like you. The you who debates character motivations and makes me laugh. That's what matters." He pulled her close, kissing her with an intensity that made her forget they were sitting in a parking lot. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead against hers. "I'm falling in love with you. I need you to know that. I'm falling in love with you too." The admission felt huge and terrifying and absolutely right, but the revelation about Ethan's wealth did change things, not between them but around them. When she finally Googled him that night, unable to resist her curiosity, she found hundreds of articles. Photos of him at charity galas with beautiful women in designer gowns. Features in business magazines calling him a prodigy and a visionary. Stories about the rift with his father, Bernard Carter, and how Ethan had transformed a struggling company into an industry leader. The photos showed a different Ethan, harder somehow, with a professional smile that never reached his eyes. She preferred her Ethan, the one who made bad jokes and stole bites of her dessert. Sophie called the next morning, her voice pitched high with excitement. "You are dating Ethan Carter. The Ethan Carter. Maya, do you have any idea who he is?" "I know who he is. He's on the Forbes 400. He dated that actress, what's her name, Vanessa something." She was in that spy movie. How did you even meet him? At the hospital. He was a patient. This is insane. You have to tell me everything. But Maya found she did not want to tell everything, not even to her best friend. What she had with Ethan felt fragile and precious, and exposing it to outside scrutiny felt dangerous. She did tell her brothers, mostly because Tommy saw Ethan dropping her off one evening and would not stop pestering her until she explained. A millionaire, Maya. Seriously. Tommy's eyes were wide. Is he nice to you? Very nice. Because if he is not, I don't care how much money he has. I will make him regret it. Maya hugged her younger brother, touched by his protectiveness. He treats me like I'm the most important person in the world, and Ethan did. As spring turned to summer, he integrated her into his life with an ease that surprised her. She met his assistant, Patricia, a sharp woman in her 50s who clearly ran Ethan's professional life with an iron fist and who looked at Maya with undisguised curiosity. You are the first woman he has brought around in over a year, Patricia told her one afternoon when Maya stopped by Ethan's office to bring him lunch. And he is different with you. Happier. Ethan's office was in a gleaming high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and modern art. His personal space was surprisingly minimalist, with only a few photos on his desk. One of his mother, one of what looked like a younger Ethan with an older man who must be his father, and now, she noticed, one of her. It was from the day they had gone to the aquarium. Her face lit up with delight as she watched the jellyfish tanks. When did you take that? She asked, touching the frame. You were so absorbed you did not even notice. You looked beautiful. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. His physical therapy had progressed to the point where he barely needed the cane anymore, though he still tired easily. I love that you find joy in everything. That's not true. I hate doing taxes. And cleaning the bathroom, he laughed. Okay, you find joy in most things. Can I ask you something? Always. Come with me to this charity gala next weekend. It's for pediatric cancer research. I go every year, and I usually hate every minute of it, but I think with you there, it might actually be bearable. Maya pulled away slightly, anxiety spiking. Ethan, I don't have anything to wear to a gala. I don't even know what people do at galas. You eat mediocre food, make small talk, and write a big check at the end of the night, and I will handle the dress. Please, Maya, I want you with me. She agreed, though the idea of entering Ethan's world so publicly made her nervous. True to his word, a dress was delivered to her apartment 3 days later, a gorgeous deep green gown that fit her perfectly. There were shoes too, and a clutch, and a note in Ethan's handwriting that said, "You are going to be the most beautiful woman there." The gala was held at a historic hotel ballroom, with chandeliers and marble floors and more wealth concentrated in one room than Maya had seen in her entire life. Ethan kept her close, his hand on the small of her back, introducing her to colleagues and friends. "This is Maya Chen, my girlfriend," he would say, and the pride in his voice made her stand a little straighter. Most people were polite, but she could see the curiosity, the assessment. She was clearly different from the women Ethan usually dated, less polished, less connected. One woman, a brittle blonde in a dress that probably cost 5 figures, looked her up and down with obvious disdain. How lovely. And what is it you do, Maya? I'm a copy editor. How quaint. The woman's smile was sharp. Ethan, I heard your Q2 numbers were exceptional. You must be pleased. She angled her body to exclude Maya from the conversation, and Maya felt herself shrinking, becoming invisible. But Ethan shifted, pulling Maya back into the circle. I am pleased. Maya, this is Diane Richmond. Her company supplies some of our component parts. Diane, Meyer is being modest. She's one of the best editors in the city and an incredible volunteer. She actually helped me get through my recovery." Diane's eyes narrowed. "How did you two meet?" "At the hospital," Maya said, finding her voice. "I read stories to patients. How charitable." The dismissive tone was clear. They extricated themselves as soon as politely possible, and Ethan led Maya onto the dance floor. She had warned him she was not a great dancer, but he guided her easily, his hand firm on her waist. "I'm sorry about Diane. She's always been insufferable. She's beautiful. She's cold. You are warm and real and kind. There's no comparison, Maya." He pulled her closer. "If this is too much, we can leave. I have made my donation. No one will care." "No, I'm okay. I don't belong in this world, Ethan. You have to know that. You belong wherever you want to be. And I want you here with me." They stayed until the end, and when they finally left, Maya's feet aching in the beautiful but impractical shoes, Ethan took her back to his place for the first time. She had been curious about where he lived, and the penthouse apartment did not disappoint. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the space was decorated with a mix of modern and vintage pieces that somehow worked together perfectly. "Did you decorate this yourself?" she asked, running her hand over a beautiful mid-century sideboard. "Mostly. I like finding things, restoring them. It's one of my hobbies." He kicked off his shoes and loosened his tie. "Make yourself comfortable. Do you want wine, water, tea?" "Water is good." She walked to the windows, looking out at the glittering city below. She could see the hospital from here, a squat building that looked insignificant among the high-rises. Ethan came up behind her with 2 glasses of water, handing her one. "What are you thinking about? How different our lives are. I can see my entire world from your living room, and you live in a completely different stratosphere." "That's not true. Our lives are intertwined now." He set his glass down and took both of her hands. "Maya, I know this is fast, but I have never been more certain of anything. I love you. Not because you're impressed by what I have or what I do, but because you see who I actually am. You make me want to be better, to work less and live more. You make me laugh. You make me feel like I'm home." Tears pricked at her eyes. "I love you too. You make me feel brave enough to want things I never thought I could have." He kissed her then, deep and searching, and Maya let herself get lost in it. They made their way to his bedroom, shedding fancy clothes in a trail across the polished wood floors, and when they made love for the first time, it felt like the natural conclusion to everything that had been building between them since that first day in the hospital room. Afterward, wrapped in his sheets with the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling, Maya felt a contentment she had not known was possible. Ethan traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, his breathing slow and even. "Move in with me," he murmured. "What? Move in with me?" "I know it's fast, but I hate the thought of you going back to your apartment when all I want is to fall asleep with you every night and wake up with you every morning." Maya propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. "Ethan, that's a huge step. I know. But why wait when we both know this is right?" She thought about her small apartment with its leaky faucet and temperamental heating. She thought about Hemingway and her modest furniture and the life she had built there. It was not much, but it was hers. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "This is all happening so fast. Take all the time you need." He pulled her back down against his chest. "But know that I mean it. I want you here." Maya did not move in right away, though she spent more and more nights at Ethan's place as the summer progressed. She kept her apartment, kept her independence, even as she fell deeper in love with him. They found a rhythm that worked, balancing his demanding work schedule with her editing deadlines and volunteer commitments. She still went to the hospital 3 times a week to read, though now she visited different patients. It would have felt strange to read to others while dating Ethan, like she was somehow betraying the sanctity of what they had built. But the work still mattered to her, and Ethan never asked her to give it up. One evening in late July, Maya was reading to an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson when Linda poked her head into the room. "Maya, when you are done, can you stop by my office? There's someone who wants to meet you." Curious, Maya finished the chapter and made her way to Linda's office. She was surprised to find a man waiting there, older, maybe late 60s, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that reminded her uncomfortably of Ethan. "Maya, this is Bernard Carter," Linda said. "He's a major donor to our hospital and specifically to our volunteer programs." Maya's stomach dropped. "Bernard Carter, Ethan's father. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Carter." She kept her voice professional, neutral. "The pleasure is mine. I have heard quite a bit about you." His tone was pleasant enough, but there was something assessing in his gaze. "I understand you met my son through this program." "I did." "And now you are dating him." It was not a question. Maya glanced at Linda, who looked confused and uncomfortable. "Yes, is that a problem?" "That depends. Walk with me, Miss Chen." He gestured toward the door, and Maya found herself following him out into the hallway, away from Linda's office. They walked in silence until they reached a small courtyard, empty at this time of evening. Bernard turned to face her, and now his expression was harder, calculating. "I'll be direct. You seem like a nice young woman, but you and my son come from very different worlds. Ethan and I are aware of that. Are you? Do you understand what it means to be with someone like him? The scrutiny, the expectations, the pressure." His last girlfriend could not handle it, and she was born into wealth. Maya felt anger flare in her chest. "With all due respect, Mr. Carter, my relationship with your son is between us. You have not even spoken to him in 5 years. Because he is stubborn and impulsive. He threw away his education, his future, all to spite me." "That's not how he tells it." Bernard's jaw tightened. "Of course it is not. I am sure he has painted me as the villain, but I built Carter Home Industries from nothing. I sacrificed everything for that company, for my family. And then Ethan waltzed in and thought he could do better. And he did. From what I understand, the company is more successful now than it ever was under your leadership. Success is not just about quarterly earnings, Miss Chen. It's about legacy, about sustainability. Ethan runs himself into the ground, and apparently now he has you as a distraction. How long before his focus slips? How long before the company suffers? I'm not a distraction. I'm someone who loves him and supports him." "Love." Bernard said the word like it was distasteful. "Love does not pay bills or build empires. I have seen this before. He gets infatuated, he changes his whole life to accommodate someone, and then when reality sets in, it falls apart. You will be the one who gets hurt, Miss Chen. He will choose the company. He always does. You don't know him." "Not anymore. I know him better than anyone. He is my son." Bernard pulled out a business card and held it out to her. "When this ends badly, and it will, call me. I'll make sure you are taken care of. Financially, I mean. It is the least I can do." Maya stared at the card like it was a snake. "I don't want your money, Mr. Carter, and I don't appreciate you ambushing me at my volunteer job to tell me I'm not good enough for your son. I never said you were not good enough. I said you are not prepared for what being with him entails." He set the card on the bench between them. "Think about it. That's all I ask." He walked away, leaving Maya shaking with anger and something else, something that felt uncomfortably like doubt. She left the card where it was and went home to her apartment, needing space to think. She did not tell Ethan about the encounter immediately. She knew it would hurt him, would reopen old wounds. But the conversation had planted seeds of uncertainty. What if Bernard was right? What if she was not equipped for Ethan's world? What if loving him was not enough? Ethan noticed her distraction over the next few days. "What's wrong?" "You have been quiet. Just tired. Big editing project." The lie tasted bitter. Maya, talk to me. Did something happen? She almost told him then, but her phone rang. It was Tommy, and from his panicked tone she knew something was wrong. Maya, it's Mom. She fell. We are at the hospital. Can you come? She was out the door before she even hung up, Ethan right behind her. Her mother had broken her hip, the doctors told them. She would need surgery and then extensive rehabilitation. Maya sat in the waiting room with her brothers, holding Tommy's hand while Jamie paced. How are we going to afford this? Jamie asked, his voice rising. She doesn't have great insurance. The copays alone are going to be insane. We will figure it out, Maya said, though she had no idea how. She was barely covering her own expenses, and she had been helping Tommy with his rent. Ethan was quiet beside her, but when her brothers went to get coffee, he said, "Let me help." "What? Your mother's medical bills. Let me take care of them, all of them, and the rehabilitation." "Ethan, no, that's too much." "It's nothing to me, Maya, please. Let me do this for you, for your family." She wanted to say no, wanted to maintain her independence and her pride, but the truth was she did not have a choice. They could not afford this, and her mother needed the surgery. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." The surgery went well, and true to his word, Ethan handled all the financial aspects. He did it quietly, without fanfare, making arrangements with the hospital billing department and setting up a payment plan for the rehabilitation facility. Maya's mother, when she was finally lucid enough to understand, cried and tried to refuse. "Mrs. Chen, it's an honor to help," Ethan said, sitting beside her hospital bed. "Maya has given me so much. This is the least I can do." Over the next few weeks, as her mother recovered, Maya found herself spending more time at Ethan's apartment. It was closer to the hospital, and he had converted one of his guest rooms into a temporary office for her, so she could work while being available for her family. He never complained about the disruption, never made her feel like a burden. One night, exhausted after a long day of visiting her mother and managing her brother's various crises, Maya collapsed on Ethan's couch. He sat beside her, pulling her feet into his lap and massaging them gently. "Your father came to see me," she said suddenly. "At the hospital, a few weeks ago." Ethan's hands stilled. "What did he want? To warn me off, I think. He said I wasn't prepared for your world, that it would end badly, that you always choose the company." "And you believed him?" "I don't know. Maybe part of me did." She sat up, pulling her feet back. "Ethan, everything has been so perfect, but what if this is just a bubble? What happens when real life keeps happening? When I'm stressed about money and you are working 80-hour weeks again? When the novelty wears off?" "This is not novelty. This is my life, Maya. You are my life." He took her hands, his grip almost desperate. "My father doesn't know me. He doesn't know us. Yes, I work a lot. Yes, there are demands on my time, but I have never wanted to make space for someone the way I want to make space for you. I have never looked at a future and seen someone in it until you. What if I can't keep up? What if I embarrass you at some work event or say the wrong thing to the wrong person? Then I will not care because you will still be you. The woman who reads to strangers, who helps her family without hesitation, who makes me laugh and challenges me and sees me as more than my bank account or my company." He cupped her face in his hands. "Marry me." Maya's breath caught. "What? Marry me?" "I know it's fast, but I also know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to support your dreams and have you support mine. I want to build a life together that's ours, not dictated by my father or society or anyone else's expectations. Ethan, we have only been together for 4 months, and every one of those months has shown me that you are it for me, but if you need more time, I will wait. Just tell me there's a chance you will say yes eventually." Maya looked at this man who had somehow become her whole heart. She thought about how he had taken care of her mother without hesitation, how he listened to her ramble about obscure grammar rules, how he made her feel safe and seen and cherished. She thought about Bernard's warnings and her own fears and the very real obstacles they would face. And then she thought about how empty her life had felt before Ethan, how she had been going through the motions, helping everyone else but never allowing herself to want anything for herself. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." The kiss was different this time, full of promise and commitment and the understanding that they were choosing each other, fully and completely. Ethan produced a ring from his pocket, a simple platinum band with a single perfect diamond, and slipped it onto her finger. "I bought this 3 weeks ago," he admitted. "I have been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment. This is the right moment." And it was. They decided on a small wedding, immediate family only, and set the date for early October. Maya's mother was horrified. "That's so soon. And so small. Maya, don't you want a big celebration?" "I want to marry Ethan. That's all that matters." But there were complications, starting with Bernard Carter. Ethan called his father the first time they had spoken in 5 years to tell him about the engagement. Maya could only hear one side of the conversation, but she could tell it was not going well. "I don't care what you think about the timeline, Dad. I'm calling as a courtesy, not to ask permission. She will be at the wedding if you want to come or not." Ethan's voice was hard. "Actually, you are right. We don't have anything else to say to each other." He hung up, his face flushed with anger. "I shouldn't have called. He's your father. You were right to try. He called you a gold digger, said you are probably pregnant and trapping me." Maya felt like she had been slapped. "I'm not pregnant. I know that. But he has decided what this is, and nothing I say will change his mind." Ethan pulled her close. "I don't need his approval or his presence. All I need is you." But the confrontation with Bernard had consequences. A week later, an article appeared in a business journal questioning Ethan's judgment, citing his quick engagement and recovery from a near-fatal accident as evidence that he might not be fit to lead Carter Home Industries. The board of directors called an emergency meeting, and Ethan came home that night looking more stressed than Maya had ever seen him. "They want me to delay the wedding," he said, pouring himself a drink. "They think it looks impulsive and unstable. My father has been talking to board members, planting doubts. We can delay it if we need to. No, I'm not letting him control my life anymore." Ethan downed the whiskey in one gulp. "But I need to fight this, Maya. I need to show the board that I'm still capable of leading the company. Which means I'm going to be working a lot over the next few weeks. Long hours, travel probably. Okay, we will get through it." And they did, though it was harder than Maya expected. Ethan was gone more than he was home, traveling to meet with investors and clients, working until 2 in the morning on presentations and projections. When he was home, he was exhausted and stressed, and twice he snapped at her over small things, apologizing immediately but leaving her feeling unsettled. Her own stress was mounting too. Her mother's recovery was slower than expected, and Jamie had lost his job, which meant Maya was covering his portion of their mother's expenses. Her savings account was dwindling rapidly, and she had started taking on extra editing work, pulling her own late nights to meet deadlines. They barely saw each other for 2 weeks, communicating mostly through texts and quick phone calls. When they finally had a free evening together, Maya suggested they stay in and cook dinner, something simple and intimate. But Ethan had brought homework, spreading papers across the dining table. "I'm sorry, I just need to finish this presentation. Can we order in?" "We always order in. I wanted to do something together, and we will, just not tonight. This is important, Maya." "And I'm not." Ethan looked up, frustration clear on his face. "That's not fair. You know how important you are to me. but I'm trying to save my company. My father is actively trying to undermine me, and the board is looking for any excuse to push me out. I need you to understand that. I do understand, but I also need my fiancé to occasionally be present. We are supposed to be getting married in 6 weeks, Ethan. We have not even finalized the venue or the catering or anything because you are never available to make decisions. So make them without me. I trust you. That's not the point. Maya felt tears of frustration building. I don't want to plan our wedding alone. I want to do it with you. Can we please not do this right now? I have a meeting in 7 hours and I need to finish this. Maya stared at him, at this stranger who looked like the man she loved but was locked behind walls of stress and obligation. Bernard's words echoed in her head. He will choose the company. He always does. Fine. I'm going to my apartment. Call me when you have time for your fiancé. She left before he could respond, before he could see her cry. At her apartment, Hemingway wound around her ankles, meowing plaintively. She had been neglecting him too, spending so much time at Ethan's place or with her family. She fed the cat and sat on her couch, staring at the engagement ring on her finger. Was she making a mistake? Was Bernard right that love was not enough? She loved Ethan desperately, but she was starting to wonder if loving him meant always coming second to his work, his obligations, his company. Her phone rang an hour later. It was Ethan. "I'm sorry," he said before she could speak. "You are right. I have been absent and distracted, and I'm not being fair to you. Can I come over? I want to talk, really talk." "Okay, come over." He arrived 20 minutes later with takeout from her favorite Thai place and a bouquet of flowers that looked like he had grabbed them from a corner store. They were a little wilted, completely imperfect, and somehow exactly right. "I'm scared," he admitted as they sat on her couch with containers of pad thai and green curry between them. "I'm scared that my father is right, that I'm going to lose the company. And if I lose it, what am I? Who am I?" "You are Ethan, the man who debates books and makes bad jokes and treats my family like they are his own. The company doesn't define you, but it's my life's work. It's everything I have been fighting for. Is it worth losing us over?" The question hung in the air between them. Ethan set down his food and took her hands. "No, nothing is worth that. I have been doing exactly what my father predicted, choosing the company over everything else. But you were right to call me out. I need to find balance, and I need to remember why I'm fighting in the first place." "Why are you fighting?" "Because I want to build something good, something that matters. Because I want to prove that I can be successful and happy, that I don't have to sacrifice everything like my father did. But I can't do that if I'm sacrificing you in the process. I don't need you to be perfect, Ethan. I just need you to be present, to choose us even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I will. I promise." He kissed her gently. "And I'm going to start by taking tomorrow off. We are going to finalize our wedding plans together. The board and my father and everyone else can wait for one day." They spent the next day planning their wedding, choosing a small inn outside the city for the venue, and selecting a menu that incorporated both of their favorite foods. It was simple and intimate and absolutely perfect. Ethan kept his phone off the entire day, giving Maya his undivided attention. The board meeting the following week went better than expected. Ethan presented his case, showing not just the company's strong financial performance, but also his plans for sustainable growth and better work-life balance for all employees, including himself. Several board members were impressed, and while Bernard remained opposed, he did not have enough support to force any changes. "I think I'm going to hire a COO," Ethan told Maya that night. "Someone to handle the day-to-day operations so I can focus on strategy and big-picture stuff. It doesn't mean I'm giving up or stepping back. It means I'm being smarter about how I lead." "I think that's a great idea," Things got better after that. Not perfect, but better. Ethan was more present, more available. He still worked long hours sometimes, but he also made sure to protect time for them, for their relationship. Maya moved more of her things into his apartment, and they started referring to it as our place, instead of Ethan's place. The wedding arrived on a perfect October afternoon with trees ablaze in red and gold. Maya wore a simple ivory dress, and Ethan cried when he saw her walking down the makeshift aisle in the inn's garden. Her mother was there in a wheelchair, beaming. Her brothers stood as her attendants, Tommy with suspiciously bright eyes and Jamie grinning widely. Patricia was there, along with a few of Ethan's close friends and colleagues. Bernard was not, but his mother had flown in from France, a warm woman with Ethan's eyes who embraced Maya like she was already family. "I am so happy he found you," she whispered. "You have given him back his heart." The ceremony was short and sweet, and when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ethan kissed Maya like she was his entire world. And maybe, she thought, she was. Just like he was hers. The months after the wedding were an adjustment. They were figuring out how to be married, how to merge their lives fully. Money remained a weird issue. Ethan had put Maya on all his accounts, giving her access to wealth she could barely comprehend. She still worked as a freelance editor, still volunteered at the hospital, but she no longer had to stress about her brother's or her mother's medical bills. Ethan had set up a trust for her family, ensuring they would always be taken care of. "You don't have to keep working if you don't want to," Ethan said one morning over breakfast. "You could write that novel you always wanted to write." Maya considered it. The idea was tempting, terrifying, exhilarating. "Maybe I will, but I like editing. I like helping other people's stories come to life." "Then do both. Do whatever makes you happy." She started writing, just an hour or two each morning before diving into her editing work. It was slow going, and most of what she wrote was probably terrible, but it felt like reclaiming a part of herself she had lost years ago. Ethan read her pages each night, offering encouragement and genuine enthusiasm, even for the rough early chapters. The holidays brought new challenges. Ethan's mother wanted them to come to France for Christmas, but Maya's mother needed her close by. They compromised, spending a week in France and then returning for New Year's with her family. Bernard sent a card, stiff and formal, but it was something. Maybe, eventually, he would come around. In February, almost a year after they had first met, Maya and Ethan returned to the hospital for a volunteer appreciation event. Linda spotted them immediately and rushed over. "Look at you two, I knew it. I knew from the start you were perfect for each other." "You did not," Maya laughed. "You were just desperate for someone to read to him." "Maybe, but it worked out pretty well, didn't it?" They toured the new children's wing that Ethan's company had helped fund, and Maya read stories to a few young patients, her voice carrying the same gentle warmth it always had. Ethan watched from the doorway, and when she finished and joined him, he pulled her close. "You know what I love most about you," he murmured. "You make everything better just by being you. These kids, me, everyone you touch, you have this gift. It's not a gift, it's just caring. That's the gift." That night back in their apartment, Ethan had news. "I talked to my father today. Really talked. He called to congratulate me on the company's year-end numbers, and we ended up on the phone for an hour." "What did you talk about?" "Everything. The company, you, his regrets. He asked if he could take us to dinner next week, both of us. He wants to apologize to you." Maya felt a complicated mix of emotions. "Do you believe he means it?" "I think so. I think almost losing me in the accident made him realize some things, and then seeing how well the company is doing, seeing how happy I am, made him realize he was wrong. He's stubborn, like me, so it took him a while to admit it." They met Bernard at an upscale restaurant the following week. He was stiff at first, formal, but as the evening progressed, he softened. He told stories about Ethan as a child, about building the company, about his own father's impossibly high standards. "I did to Ethan what my father did to me," Bernard said finally. "I thought I was preparing him for a harsh world, but I was just repeating old wounds. I'm sorry, Ethan. And Maya, I'm sorry for how I treated you. You have been nothing but good for my son, and I was too blind and stubborn to see it." "Thank you for saying that," Maya said. "It means a lot." It was not a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. Over the next few months, Bernard became a more regular presence in their lives, stopping by for Sunday dinners, offering business advice without the criticism, slowly rebuilding the relationship with his son. By their first anniversary, Maya had finished a rough draft of her novel. It was messy and needed extensive revision, but it existed, a testament to her perseverance and Ethan's support. They celebrated with a trip to Italy, 2 weeks of exploring ancient cities and eating incredible food and making love in hotel rooms with views of the Mediterranean. "I want to do this forever," Maya said one evening as they watched the sunset from their balcony in Positano. "Travel with you, explore the world, make memories. Then we will. Wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go, the world is ours now." They returned home to discover that Maya's novel manuscript had been submitted to a publisher by her editor friend who had read it and loved it. Maya had not even known it was being considered, and the news that a small press wanted to publish it sent her into a spiral of disbelief and joy. "See," Ethan said, spinning her around their living room. "I told you that you could do it. You believed in me before I believed in myself." Someone wise once sat by my hospital bed and read to me with the gentlest voice I had ever heard. She made me believe in things I had stopped believing in. I'm just returning the favor. The novel came out the following spring to modest but positive reviews. It was not a bestseller, but it was hers, a dream realized. Ethan threw her a launch party at a bookstore downtown, inviting everyone who mattered. Her family, his mother, Bernard, Patricia, Linda from the hospital, Sophie, and dozens of other friends and well-wishers. Maya read an excerpt, her voice steady and clear, and when she finished, Ethan was the first to stand and applaud. She looked at him across the crowded bookstore, at this man who had changed her entire life, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude and love. That night in the quiet of their bedroom, Ethan held her close and whispered, "I have been thinking about something." "What's that, kids? I know we have talked about it, but I want to make sure you are really on board." "Because I would love to have children with you, but only if it's what you want to." Maya had thought about it often, imagining what their children might look like, whether they would have Ethan's gray eyes or her dark hair. "I want that too. I'm ready if you are." They tried, and 3 months later, Maya found out she was pregnant. Ethan cried when she told him, actual tears streaming down his face as he held her and pressed his hand to her still flat stomach. "We are going to be parents." "We are going to be parents," she echoed, and the reality of it was overwhelming in the best way. The pregnancy was relatively easy, and Ethan was attentive to the point of being overbearing. He read every pregnancy book he could find, insisted on going to every doctor's appointment, and converted one of their spare rooms into a nursery painted in soft yellows and greens. "You think she will like it?" he asked, standing in the middle of the room surrounded by stuffed animals and tiny clothes. We don't know if it's a girl yet. I have a feeling." He was right. Their daughter, Emma Rose Carter, was born on a snowy December morning, perfect and tiny and absolutely beautiful. Ethan held her with a tenderness that made Maya fall in love with him all over again, watching as he whispered promises to their daughter about all the ways he would protect her and love her and be there for her. Maya's mother cried when she met her granddaughter. Tommy and Jamie fought over who got to hold her first. Bernard showed up with enough gifts to stock a toy store and tears in his eyes as he held his grandchild. "Thank you," he told Maya quietly, "for giving him this, for giving all of us this." Those first few months were exhausting and wonderful. Sleepless nights and endless diaper changes, and the steep learning curve of figuring out what a tiny human needed. But they did it together. Ethan taking paternity leave and being fully present in a way that surprised everyone except Maya. She knew what kind of man he was, what kind of father he would be. When Emma was 3 months old, Maya started writing again, carving out time during naps and in the early mornings before the baby woke. Her second novel came easier, the words flowing faster now that she trusted herself. Ethan would take Emma for walks so Maya could write, coming home with coffee and pastries and updates on their daughter's latest milestone. She smiled at a dog today. A real smile, not just gas. "She's a genius," Maya said, and they both laughed at their parental bias. Emma grew, reaching each milestone with determination. She had Ethan's eyes and Maya's smile, and she was curious about everything, reaching for books before she could even sit up on her own. On her first birthday, surrounded by family and friends, Maya looked around at the life they had built and felt a profound sense of peace. This was not the life she had imagined for herself 5 years ago, when she was struggling to pay bills and helping her brothers and wondering if she would ever find someone who truly saw her. But it was better than anything she could have dreamed, richer and fuller and more joyful than she had known was possible. Ethan found her later that evening after the party had wound down, and Emma was asleep upstairs. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder just like he had that day in his office so long ago. "What are you thinking about? How lucky I am. How lucky we are." She turned in his arms to face him. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if I had not volunteered that day? If Linda had sent someone else to your room all the time? But I also think we would have found each other somehow. Maybe at a bookstore or a coffee shop or anywhere really. Because this," he gestured between them, "was inevitable. You were always meant to be mine and I was always meant to be yours. That's very romantic for a CEO. I learned from the best." He kissed her softly. "I love you, my Carter. Thank you for reading to me that day. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for building this life with me. I love you too, always." They had 2 more children over the next few years. A son named Lucas, who had Maya's determined spirit, and a second daughter named Lily, who was quiet and observant and loved when Maya read to her before bed. Their house was full of noise and chaos and love, and while it was not always easy, it was always worth it. Maya published 3 more novels, each one more successful than the last. She never became famous, but she had a loyal readership who appreciated her stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary love. She still volunteered at the hospital when she could, reading to patients and remembering where it all started. Ethan grew the company while maintaining the balance he had fought so hard to achieve. He was a present father and devoted husband, and he never took for granted the second chance at life the accident had given him. He and Bernard rebuilt their relationship slowly, and while it was never perfect, it was real and honest. On their 10th anniversary, Ethan took Maya back to the hospital, back to room 407 where they had first met. It was empty, waiting for the next patient, and they stood together in the doorway. "Do you remember what I thought the first time you walked in here?" Ethan asked. "That you wanted me to leave you alone. No, I thought you looked like hope, like maybe there was something worth recovering for." He pulled her close. "I was right. You were hope, Maya, you still are. Every single day." She kissed him there in that hospital room, surrounded by the antiseptic smell and the beeping machines and the echo of the gentle voice that had once read stories to a broken man and helped him heal. They went home to their children, to their full and beautiful life, to the story they were still writing together. It was not the story Maya had planned, but it was the one she was meant to live. And as she tucked Emma and Lucas and Lily into bed that night, reading them a story in the same gentle voice that had once captivated Ethan, she knew that every choice had led her exactly where she belonged. In a house filled with love and laughter, surrounded by family, with Ethan's hand in hers and their future stretching bright and wide before them, Maya Chen Carter finally understood what her grandmother had meant all those years ago. Books were portals to infinite lives, but sometimes, if you were very lucky, your own life became the greatest story of all.